Hello, and welcome to today's training industry webinar, Leverage AI to Enhance Learning in the Flow of Work. I'm Amanda Longo, Creative Director here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you here for today's event. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping tips and tricks to help you interact with our speakers and get the most out of our time together. Of course, throughout our event, please pop open the chat to converse with myself, our speakers, or each other. If you have questions for our speakers, make sure you pop open the Q&A pod and post your questions there. I will address those questions at the end of our session with our speakers. Of course, we would always love to hear what you think about today's session or any tidbits or takeaways you want to share with the community. Please follow at Training Industry Inc. and hashtag TI webinars so we're able to track your contribution to the conversation. When our event ends, you'll notice a new tab pop up in your browser with a short evaluation survey. Of course, you know us learning leaders, we love those evals. So please take a moment and let us know what you thought about today's session or what you'd like us to cover here in the future. As always, today's event will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include a link to the on-demand program for you to share with your team. If you've attended one of our programs in the past, thanks for joining us once again. And of course, if this is your first event with us, welcome. At Training Industry, we offer a multitude of virtual events every month with subjects ranging from building a future-ready workforce to what makes a great training organization, onboarding, upskilling, reskilling, and of course, AI. We cover just about every topic relevant to leaders of training organizations around the globe. Now, to get started, I want to go ahead and introduce you to today's dynamic duo. Jack Houghton is the Chief Product Officer and co-founder at Mindset AI. He is a strategic leader focused on the future of learning and work in the AI era. Jack is passionate about helping L&D, training, edtech, and media companies turn scattered information into a valuable resource. Ken Taylor is the Chief Executive Officer here at Training Industry and has spent nearly 18 years guiding our team. Prior to that, Ken spent 17 years in the tech industry in a variety of leadership positions in marketing, operations, and finance. I'm very excited to welcome Jack and Ken today for our AI journey story. Gentlemen, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thanks, Amanda. Exciting to actually bring you a real example of how AI can help people perform their jobs better. So we're excited to bring you a session today that's going to be grounded in both what we've seen collectively around the industry, specific examples that we've seen AI use to help people in our area of work. And then we're going to specifically walk you through how we built one to support our community. We built an AI called Tia, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about that flow and both the ease with which and the challenge that goes along with creating an AI. So Amanda already told you who we are, so I'll just hop right into an agenda. So we're going to talk about how AI enhances L&D, and I'm going to give you examples that we've seen across the industry. We're going to touch on AI agents and best practices because we think it's really super important that everybody understands that the next generation of this use of AI is really understanding what an agent is and how an agent can be deployed. We're going to take you through the journey called Tia that we did at Training Industry along with our partners at Mindset. And then we'll talk to you a little bit about looking ahead, where we think it might be going in the future. Again, as Amanda said, chat us questions. We're going to pop some polls in here to ask you some things as we go through it. So try and make this as interactive as possible. With that, go for it, Jack.
I mean, it's really nice to be here with everybody because we're now entering about 2024. And for many people on this call, I probably wasn't one of them. I was actually, I was very young then. But once upon a time, we thought Google and the internet was transformative. And turns out it was. It completely transformed every single facet of business, of our lives. And Google was a major part of that. It was incredible and it was exciting. And over time, it's become incredibly frustrating. And in fact, any single person that has to operate around media, content, learning probably feels this pain very, very acutely. And I think that's one of the reasons that when ChatGPT came along, it was one of the few demonstrations of a technology that made the world sit down, completely sit down and say, what is this? And really the power here, where that moment was, is that you can now have conversations with your information, your content, and your data, real time. That's actually helpful. And there's been so much innovation in this space that people probably have yet to even see and experience yet. And we're going to take you through some of that. And the really exciting thing that we're going to start to introduce to you is that final box. 2024 is the world of do, when an AI agent can start taking you down processes, completing work, and actually doing things that are truly useful, that support your job, that goes much beyond just answering questions and about your content. So if you look even on, and you see this everywhere, if you go to the next slide, you can see this, which is very soon you're about to see AI agents on your mobile phone everywhere. And in fact, Claude, so Anthropic, if anyone has heard of it, 2 days ago just released that an AI agent is now on your computer. So absolutely everywhere they're going to be.
So let's talk about where they are today in L&D. I'll just give you a sneak peek so everybody doesn't have to frantically start scribbling down notes while I'm going to go through this slide. I'm going to talk about each of these areas, and then we're going to give you a handout after as a takeaway from the event, so you don't have to write all this down. But let me just start with kind of the area that I've seen the most exciting things happen, and that's in the area of content development. We're seeing tools that can allow you to build videos, avatars, that allows you to create a video of yourself and then have it read a script after. So the act of developing content in learning is becoming much simpler. You have the ability to prepare yourself prior to going into the meetings with the subject matter experts and actually come to the table with maybe a framework or a structure or some questions or some learning objectives that you think are appropriate, and you can develop those using AI. You can also use AI to help create assessments and tests from a set of content. So you can ask it to give you sort of a first draft or a set of prompts to check on whether or not somebody's actually learned the skills that the content you are sharing is intended to help them develop. We've seen some great progress in terms of localization, and I always get asked the same question: what percentage accuracy is it? And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's probably 80, maybe it's 90. It doesn't matter. It's now you have the ability to create it in one language and have versions of it instantaneously in other languages that you can then send to your translation experts to make sure that it's correct and contextually correct. That's the mind shift. The mind shift isn't how accurate will my translation be for free. The mind shift is my translation will be available for free and then just need to be verified. That's what's happening in that space. A lot of really cool things around learning pathways. It has the ability to ingest large amounts of content and categorize it, and then serve it back to learners based on where they are in their journey. So perhaps you're a relatively advanced marketing analyst, and there are a certain set of courses that are specifically designed for certain advanced marketeers. Well, those courses can be put immediately into an employee's queue, so they'll be able to take those courses to get to the skill level you're looking to drive the team towards. Great examples of coaching. One thing that AI has done very well from the get-go is being able to evaluate video of somebody or video interactions with somebody against a rubric. So you can basically say, these are the criteria that we're going to look for in a sales call, record a sales call, and then ask the coach to give the salesperson advice on whether or not they achieved the things in the rubric. Why that's super cool is because there are people that don't like to role play, especially not with their manager. So this gives them a place where they can go practice with an AI-based coach, really low cost, and it's always there available for you to work on some of the skills that you personally want to develop. So really exciting examples in that area. In the context of personalization, it can choose language, it can choose topics, it can choose the degree to which you're served the whole course or just a part of the course. So it can really check where you are in the context of your learning journey and then serve you content that matches your personal journey. And I think that's the real exciting part of personalization. It can analyze large amounts of data and probably give you some wrong answers, but maybe highlight you some answers that make a whole lot of sense. It can help you decide what the KPIs should be for a program, and then allow you to put in place the things necessary to measure it before you design the program. So think of it almost like as a personal visualization aid. Like you give it the data and say, show me different ways I can present this data that would be most effective. So again, as a learning leader, you're challenged to communicate the impacts of your program. This is just one more tool you can use to help you with that. One of the really great examples that we see is in the area of simulation. One of the things that AI is fantastic at is scenario building. You can ask it more and more specific questions, and you can get more specific in terms of the scenario that it'll build for you. So think of it like we had 50 skills that we wanted to, or 50 concepts that we wanted to share with somebody in the program. And I want to build a scenario that actually makes the people as part of this program, think of it like a work example or a case study, that actually exercises the use of those skills and allows you to demonstrate them. So great, AI is fantastic for helping you build those types of things. Training administration, simply stating, it's going to be showing up in more and more LMSs to automate many more of the processes that are already being done by the LMS. And we're seeing many of the LMS companies actually integrate AI to help solve with some of the routine tasks. And probably my favorite one, because there's nothing more important to personalizing and having learning pathways than having baseline competency models for your key roles inside of an organization. This can accelerate the development of those competency models in a crazy way. Think of it as providing you a framework that can be based on any taxonomy that you choose, and leverage that taxonomy to develop for your key roles in the organization what the competencies are that are necessary. And then once you have that developed, you can then use that to create the learning pathways. You can use that to create personalization. You can use that competency model to create assessments and testing, all of which will become much more relevant and much more effective. So the exciting thing, and I know that was a lot to digest, that's why, like I said, you're going to get a job aid after. That's why this time in L&D is probably the most exciting time for all of the years that I've been around it, because we really are going to have a tool set here that's going to allow us to really change the impact our organization has on organizational performance, which we know is absolutely our #1 priority. That was a mouthful. Let's ask you a question.
All right, everyone, here is our first poll. Of course, we want to know how you're embracing AI in L&D at your organization. You've got a couple of options here. We usually like to leave this open for a few moments so you have a chance to make your selection. It is only a single choice. Sorry about that. So you'll have to make a tough decision, I'm sure. I'll give you a few more moments. I'm seeing about 40% of our audience has made their selection. Are you an enthusiast, an explorer? Are you just learning? Are you a little skeptical, or are you flat out afraid? It is the season for being afraid if that's a holiday you celebrate. So don't get confused. This is not about the holiday. This is about AI. How are you embracing it in your L&D? I've got about 75% of you participating in the poll, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Here's what they're saying, guys.
So the great news is that I don't see a lot of skepticals or afraids. I think it's exciting to be an explorer. I think it's exciting to be an enthusiastic participant in leveraging AI, or even just learning about it. But I think we're all sort of on this explorer journey. Jack, what do you think?
Oh, well. I mean, the amount of people that 6 months ago said afraid, and the amount of people that I turn up to events and people are often at still the skeptical. I think learning it as an industry generally is in the explorer or even enthusiast. I think I love how it's an industry that's kind of hungry for it generally.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think, and I think the exciting thing is that the examples are becoming more and more tangible. And it's like anything, right? I want to see it, touch it, try it before I use it for something super important. And I think we're at that time now where you can see it, touch it, try it.
Oh, I mean, we experience that. I mean, we're a provider and we do those different circles. Many of those circles we do. And at first, probably about 2 years ago, maybe longer, it was kind of a blank slate of someone says, what does it do? And it says, we can name a couple of things. And we've worked with all of our different clients, and it's kind of people have actually built the use cases, and then we've built all the technology around that. So it's been a journey even for the vendors and the providers and the technologists as well to really understand what it is really good at and what it's rubbish at, actually.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk, let's give you some thoughts around agents and their best practices. I think it's important to help establish definitions here, and we'll leverage Jack's knowledge to do that.
I can only fall from that pedestal. But I mean, first and foremost, it's always really important to remember, probably one of the most important useful use cases is around information and saving us time. That's generally it. Because right now, that person is about most of the people on this call, is we constantly live jumping between different systems. And most learners typically just want it really simple, really easy. They don't want to have to go through very complex processes. And so what you'll see on the next slide is what an actual agent enables us to achieve together. Now, first and foremost, for some reason, the AI world is awful at naming things because agent isn't a nice name. And a group of agents is called a swarm, which is an even worse name. So the way that people name them is not to be inclusive and make it seem attractive and fun and safe. But I think it'll be really helpful if we just break down those components, because I'll first start on the right-hand side. So where it says all those capabilities. So an agent, if you actually think about all the different components of an agent, actually what first and foremost it does is each agent has access to separate pieces of data. There's a bit of a myth that when you think, oh, I'm going to give it access to my, enterprise content management or my SCORM or whatever it might be, that you're just plugging it into SharePoint or learning platform and suddenly opening all information up to it. You have to think about it more as you actually give it access to a file or a folder, and that's it. And once that file or folder's there, it syncs up. But each agent can have access to completely separate pieces of data. And so each one of your user groups can have access to completely separate sets of content. Number two, it's able to use tools. A tool is basically a custom coded tool that allows it to do something that a language model cannot do. So for example, language models, rubbish at maths. So you can actually build a calculator tool that an agent goes, this is maths, use the calculator tool. Boom, tells it the response, gives you it back. So there's many different things that when a language model is not good at something, you build a tool, and that's what we do. Build a tool to allow it to do something that it's rubbish at naturally. Number three, planning. Planning is basically reasoning and reflection. So you probably used ChatGPT before, and you ask it a question, build me an essay, and it regurgitates a 500-word essay. And you're like, whoa. If a human said that, you'd ask questions. Look, planning, reasoning, and reflection is actually when an AI agent asks itself, how should I execute this? So it plans out a process, then it reflects and says, is that a good process? And yes, no, I think that needs to be better. It then will give you the answer and then improve its answer if it needs to. So it's able to actually reflect and plan on what it's about to do. And then we're talking workflows. So workflows are where you've probably seen these, where you can actually execute multi-step processes. Build me a pathway. This is how our platform enables people to build simulations or coaching workflows and methodologies with an agent. So it can ask questions back to people really easily based on a specific methodology. And then finally, access to large language models. So it's actually just like, of all the things you have to build as a technologist, as a vendor, the language model is just like a database. It's just querying. That's all it's doing. And if you imagine an agent, it's like a software box that basically decides when to do different things. Very clever. And that's what an agent is. And an agent now, you have to think about it as SaaS. It's now a technology. That's it. So all of the biggest companies in the world will typically be an agent platform of some sort. Now, moving from that right-hand bucket of all those different components, if you actually go in the middle where it says agents and other agents, what's going to be coming in the next, I'd say about 18 months, is agent collaboration. So you might have the sales team agent, the CRM agent, the course builder agent, the assessment agent. A human only knows it's speaking to chatbot on screen or chatbot on phone. Now, when you ask it something, an agent will then go and have basically someone in charge, an agent that's in charge, and says, "Sales team agent, come over here. I need you to help me do this." And that sales team agent has special data, configuration, and tools to help it perform that task. And us as mere humans, we just understand we've just asked a question. So no one's actually cracked that. It's a new thing that's coming in, but it's coming in. And then finally, which we'll come on to later, but you can put it anywhere. So that there is an agent. And most importantly, if you take one thing away, each agent is a subject matter expert. It's a thing to take away. See it as a subject matter expert. Yeah. And as I said, put it anywhere. So we've got customers who have, partners with white label kind of platforms, or it's on a mobile or a tablet. It's like a performance support platform. We've also got other customers who put in a intranet or their LMS or their LXP or the whatever it might be, and just embed it in. And as you'll see on the next slide, you can put it literally anywhere. But there you go. That's what I was going for, but we'll come on to it.
That's all right. Let's pop another poll question.
All right, so we've got a lot going on here, a lot of information. So we've got a little quiz, because learning leader likes to test, a little knowledge check. So what do you think? Is ChatGPT an AI agent? I'm interested to see the audience's responses here. Everyone gets to stay in the event, and you still get the recording afterwards, so feel free to get it wrong.
I'm not allowed to vote. It says I'm not allowed to vote.
Yeah, it says right on there we can't vote. So
yeah, no, I was trying to vote. I was wondering, why is it broken?
Sorry, Jack.
I know.
All right, let's take a look at what the audience said. Here we go.
Interesting.
That's why we did this poll.
Exactly. So the aha moment you should take away from this session is that ChatGPT is not an agent, because ChatGPT hasn't been trained on a specific set of content to do a specific thing. ChatGPT is really an interface to a large language model. So it is not a subject matter expert necessarily in any given area, and it certainly doesn't know your company's policies and procedures. So the big takeaway is it's not an agent, and agents are really trained to do things that are very specific. And I think that's the exciting part for us here at Training Industry, is once we kind of rested that understanding of what agents could do, then we started to realize that we can build agents to do things that are very specific. Jack, do you want to say anything else?
I was going to build on what you just say, I guess. I mean, the world will move towards everything being an agent, but I mean, you'll have to see it as a subject matter agent for a sales team. So a sales term education agent. It would be a partner training agent, whatever specific agent. And each one of those agents will start to have workflows and capabilities around it. And it's like hiring an assistant for one of your team members to go and help them, not just a general ChatGPT.
Yeah, and to be honest, the first little while we were trying to figure out how we would leverage AI to make the experience with Training Industry better, we were confused by that whole differentiation. And it was through kind of the establishment of partnerships and through sort of our initial conversations with the various potential vendors in the space that we started to realize, well, wait a minute, what we're doing is we're creating a subject matter expert. Yeah. And that's when you create a subject matter expert, which is exactly the reason you create courses. You're trying to get a person to a certain level of proficiency with a set of skills. So when you start to understand that an agent can actually do that and can be part of that learning journey, I think that's when hopefully the light will go on and you'll see the opportunities for use inside your organization. post-poll. There we go.
And as I was trying to be smooth with the flow that I completely missed out, but and learners literally can be embedded everywhere into communication channels. So this is ours. We've put you can put any agent in Teams on Slack. Very soon we're bringing out SMS, WhatsApps, wherever. So all it is just a new interface into that same set of information. And that's where the world's going to go. An agent is just going to be a friend for every single person to access when they need it. So how do you actually start to think about an agent? You know, how do you actually start to think about this concept? It's you kind of hopefully understand some of the components. There's probably still confusion. But first and foremost, we always start with a use case. So typically when we work with someone, we say, what is the use case who's in the terms of the team who's going to access this? Is it the sales team? Is it a compliance use case? Whatever it might be. And when you start to think about that, you go, okay, what does it need to be able to do? So think about it as a coach for that team. That coach is going to have access to certain SCORM files. So we have to do a lot of transformation of SCORM files, obviously. It might be policies and processes around that team. So all the things that are going to help that team solve problems and get access to information, like a performance support tool that makes all that training content that's been invested in something that's really valuable all the time. Once you've done that, you go and understand, okay, what does success look like for us? How many people do we want to have this accessed? So we've got people that every week they put updates into their team saying adoption's growing by 150%, 180%, whatever it might be. So you can start to understand what value it's actually going to deliver to your team and then start to shout about it, get people excited about it. Then third, you get to experiment. The really fantastic thing is we actually had to learn very early on. Us humans are rubbish at testing potential responses and where we think, what happens if it says this or that? We're just not good at that. And we're not good at understanding what's in a document or a video. We can say the title is Leadership in the 21st Century, but it might have lots of financial data that you don't want the agent to have access to. So we actually had to build a lot of technology around auto-analyzing and saying, all the information is this. This is a bit unexpected. You may want to remove this. And running automated testing. So I've been able to say, test it on all these different responses and run hundreds of tests at once. But doing that to go, okay, am I happy with how it feels and it's responding? I am, cool. And then you can deploy and start to improve naturally because every single thing is tracked. So questions asked, the themes of questions, sentiment, all that type of information. And this can be done really quickly at first. Well, the first time you do it, it'll take a little bit longer because like anything, you get into grips with it. But typically once it happens, we have people I think we've had hundreds and hundreds of them now created by people. As soon as they get that process, it just starts to chuck them out all the time.
So we said we were going to show you a real case study. We're going to talk to you about Tia, the training industry assistant that we built here based on our content. The first thing we did is we went and talked to a whole bunch of companies to see who we felt was the best match for us as an organization, both culturally, but also willingness to be innovative, to adapt. And the partner we chose was Mindset. And I think it was early days for both our understanding and for their deployments, but we really enjoyed the cycle to learn together in terms of how best to implement it in the context of a learning support agent. So that's why we're both here. The project goals were we like to make connections, right? So we wanted to improve the accessibility to training industry content. Like we have an inordinate amount of content, but it's kind of all over the place in all kinds of different formats. So we thought that we could bring a unique value to the marketplace by creating an agent that has ingested all of this content. Our target was you, the people on this call, because we felt that the kinds of questions we would get and the kinds of challenges that you all tell us through the research we do, all related to not having someone around to answer kind of the basic questions you would have about how to do something, how to build a program, how to create an onboarding program, how to do one for sales. And we know that we had hundreds of articles that covered that exact topic, but they were in a form that perhaps was a little bit more difficult for somebody to actually find, consume, and maybe you didn't need to read all of the articles that training industry has on how to build an onboarding program for a sales team. because you just wanted the answer. So we felt that there was an opportunity there, and we started the program with 4 months to go before our conference, our TICE conference in June, Training Industry Conference and Expo. So we created an unruly goal for the team, which was to have it standing up, ready to go, and be tested at our conference. So that was the project scope.
All right, so I will jump in. I was very excited to PM this project. Certainly when my boss said we have 4 months to do it, I got a little panicked, but I just thought we'll do what we can do. And so it was really important right off the bat to identify the use case, not only for our team working on it internally, but for the mindset team. You know, your vendor doesn't know your business the way you do. So there's got to be a very deep level set from the get-go. Got to share your goals and timelines. Certainly when we said it's going to be 4 months, they said, sure, no problem. But also we knew we needed to then build a whole website to put our agent in. So we need them to actually give us their product in about 2 months. So it got even shorter, which was why we kind of insisted that we had weekly progress meetings so that we could check in. There were so many things moving at once with various teams, from the SMEs on our team to the builders of our agents and the people on their team, trying to understand the voice of our brand and the voice of what we wanted this agent to have, that it was imperative that we set up weekly meetings and touched base every week diligently.
And we had some content. we had to go through, 9,000 to 10,000 articles and decide which ones should be ingested into the agent. Over 120 hours of webinars we went through and hand selected webinars that we felt were the right kinds of information that shared the right kinds of best practices. Hundreds of research reports, infographics, job aids, and the crazy thing was the journey with Mindset. They had the capability to ingest some of these content formats, but they were nimble enough to work with us to create ingestion tools so that all of these types of content elements got ingested into TIA, into the agent. So that was the magnitude of the challenge, and that's the sheer crazy amounts of content that we felt would be super helpful to be all being accessed in one place. So as you can imagine, we had editorial teams, we had our events teams going through ranking webinars based on how much people enjoyed it. We had 80 hours of podcasts with interviews from all kinds of people from our Business of Learning podcast. So all of that had to get into the agent.
Easy.
Yeah, no sweat. It took maybe a day. No, it was quite a feat. And when it was done, you want to jump up and down and say like, all right, it's all in there. But then my team in branding and messaging then needed to come in and really make sure that TIA was behaving in the sort of way that was reflective of a user having a conversation one-on-one with one of our subject matter experts. So we took painstakingly amount of time to go through her configuration, her behaviors, how her knowledge banks would be weighted when she was providing answers. We quickly ran into a multitude of things we'd never thought of before. For example, we have top training company lists that we put out every year, and we've done so for more than a decade now. And what we quickly realized is that we really only needed TIA to be looking at the most current list, because she was serving top training companies from a decade ago that potentially weren't with us anymore in that shape or form. So small nuances like that. And it really helped that we got our larger team of SMEs involved in a very strategic way. We had them screen recording. We had very specific prompts for them to take TIA through. We encouraged them to tell her when her answers were incorrect and how she should be answering the question. And all of that helped to really help her hone in on who training industry is and what our voice is and how we should be serving our users and the answers that they're looking for based on their specific needs.
It also taught us that we had a little bit of housekeeping to do, because we had a lot of pages that were ingested that we didn't want to ingest, that we had to uningest. So there was a lot of back and forth getting the right content in there. But we were excited to get it, and what we saw was the progress and the quality of the answers getting better and better and better. And then we said, well, hold on a minute, that's great to get the history in there, but like, how do we stay current? So one of the things we worked with Mindset with is, okay, what are the auto ingestion strategies we have for the various content types inside of our organization? So how do articles get in there? How do the next research report that we write, how does it get in there? And what form does it take when it's in there? How is it served? Can you read the report, or you just get the snippet in the answer from the report? So there's a lot of detailed questions and things you had to think about in terms of how the agent handled the content and how it served the content to the user. So we have now created for all of our major content types sort of an ingestion strategy, and there's a time every week when it gets updated, and we have people across the organization who are responsible for making sure that their elements get ingested at the right time, and then double checking to make sure they're ingested correctly after. So from my perspective, I did not want the agent to ever get behind our trainingindustry.com's learning. I wanted it to keep pace with all of the inputs we get from all of the content authors that share their ideas with Training Industry. We wanted TIA to keep pace. So that was a super important part of the decision criteria that we established.
And then, of course, we had to build a place for Tia to live, a home for her. So as you heard Ken say before, our training industry, our focus is building connections in the L&D market to help L&D really have that seat at the table at all organizations globally. And one of the things that we think is true about AI is it's only as powerful as the community that it resides within. And so for us, we decided to kind of change a portion of our business to build a social platform, a community where learning and leaders can go and not only ask TIAs for support, but then pop into a social platform with other learning leaders just like them to vet her answers or ask if they've tried anything she's suggesting and if they have any additional do's or don'ts. And so it was really about, again, making the connection and understanding that humans build AI, AI should be there to support humans. Bringing that together, the synergy was probably the biggest feat at the end of actually getting her built.
And one of the things that we did is we started the community, populating it with some of our regular authors and some of our instructors of our programs, people that could really help. Because again, at its heart, that's what we really wanted to accomplish. So what happened? We have TIA. So TIA actually, as Jack mentioned, we selected ChatGPT to be the foundational large language model that it runs on. It saves prompts, it saves your threads. It gives you the ability to archive those, go back to them, which was super important to us. We really feel that TIA behaves the way we would want if somebody was to answer a phone call from one of you, that it would get them an even better answer than you would get from one of our team. That it looked the right way, it was formatted correctly, it had the right personality, it was helpful, all of the things that we try and be at Training Industry. The most important feature of the platform for us, because we're publishers at heart, not really, but we publish content, but because we wanted you to know where the agent got the answer, citations were critical to us. So it actually will tell you exactly what content piece it used to come up with the answer. And Jack showed us some new and exciting things that are coming here. So it's actually going to start integrating some of those citations right into the responses. And that's super important, right? Because recognize that Training Industry, our team didn't write thousands and thousands of articles. It's a collection of voices. So I think when you get an answer from an agent, you want to know which of the voices they chose to share with you, so that you can actually go and read and be critical of the response and evaluate the source to make sure you're happy with it. So that was super important. That was sort of the I think it was the first thing that Jack and I talked about, was like, okay, how does it cite? Because I really wanted to make sure that you could see the sources and interact with them. So it'll take you exactly to the point in the webinar where it got the snippet to create the answer. So you go right to it, which is pretty cool. And again, makes consuming the content really, really quick. And then, as Amanda mentioned, we put it inside of a community that is young and developing, but the idea being it always gives you the ability to share the response you got with some others and ask them if they've had a similar experience. And I think in the context of a role, for example, inside of an organization, which is kind of what training industry is trying to provide to an industry for a specific role. But if you could think of it in the context of an organization, I really do think a best practice when you create these agents is to create them and create a community around them, so that other subject matter experts can weigh in, or other people in the role can say, yeah, I tried that and it didn't work for me, or it did work for me. So keep the human element as close as you possibly can to the interactions with the AI. Looking ahead, talk to us, Jack.
Yeah, interestingly, we were actually deciding how far ahead how many new ideas, and we actually decided, you know what, let's cut back and not introduce too many new things, and maybe it's a topic for another discussion. But really, there's going to be more agents than humans in the world. And some might find that incredibly scary. There's lots of philosophical discussions that I know everybody here probably loves to have, me included. But really, the leadership team, the product engineers, every single team in the world will have a bunch of different AI agents that increasingly understands them, knows them, and can help them. And that's the future. And I feel privileged and excited to be working with the likes of training industry and many other L&D teams, ed tech, all sorts of amazing organizations to bring that into being.
Yeah, I think the most important thing in the future is to understand that the agent will be trained on the content you want it to be trained on. And I just think that's like once you get comfortable with that, just think of it as the person that built the course. And maybe they have access to the 10 courses in a specific domain or area of expertise. So that your user can interact with the agent to get answers to practical questions that'll linger on after the training you've provided them. I think that's really the exciting opportunity and the vision for the future here.
Yeah, so true. So true.
All right, we're going to try a chat ask here. And how do you see yourself using AI agents inside of your organization in the future?
We'll give people a few moments to
I see it starting.
sink into this question. How do you see using AI agents in your organization? There's been some chatter going on in the chats. People were wondering about using it inside an LMS.
You want to take that, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, we actually integrate into different LMSs, or have done already. It's definitely something that it'll be a really interesting space to watch, I guess, because as Ken started at the beginning, my personal view is when someone says the word AI, it's like saying learning. It's such a big space. And I think certain LMSs will get some of those points, but because there's so much technology there, they have to also build. I think that increasingly there's going to be a new emergence of types of technologies that are going to be additions, almost like you saw with the LXP emerge for an LMS. I think you're going to start to see that because of the type of interfaces that's going to be needed. That's kind of my hypothesis.
And I'm just loving the examples in the chat. I mean, it's you guys you're totally getting it. It's exactly the way you should be thinking about it. Thinking about it both as a job aid for you to help you be better at your role, but more specifically that you're a leave behind that will continue to make sure that the content that you've created for the course gets reinforced, whether it be through interaction simulation on a video, basically somebody just practicing a sales pitch and then getting feedback from the agent, to always being on their desktop, they're being able to answer, how do I best, create the next proposal for the sales opportunity, and am I doing all the things that my sales team wants me to do when I'm preparing these things. So you've taught them, you gave them the course on it, but now you leave behind an agent that's an expert on it, and they can continuously interact with that. So the potential impact for that from a reinforcement perspective is huge. What else are we saying here? Self-service L&D career mapping, love that. That's the whole leveraging these taxonomies that already exist around roles. I've seen some crazy, exciting examples where it takes a job description, creates a competency model, and then a test to find out where you are on the curve. So super interesting area. Adaptive learning, skill-based learning systems. Yep. Supporting leader capability, personalizing customer experience offerings. I mean, I love the answers. I mean, that's really where we're going to see coaching for sure.
Yeah. I think coaching even in of itself is such a big concept because there's actually so many different strands now that we can bring into that from an AI perspective.
And definitely being able to provide your learning in variety of languages, the translation elements. The really interesting thing too is like it can take, you know, you can develop an avatar and then basically just provide it with a script that'll deliver the script in a variety of languages. So your time to global launches of courseware should be vastly reduced.
You know, interestingly, I think it'll be one of the big. It will start to come to an end of things like SCORM. So I mean, we've got a client. We actually turned 450 SCORM courses into something that the agent can have for a performance support tool. But I think ultimately that will bring the end of these kind of maybe certain ideas and certain ways of building courses.
Yeah, I really do think that if you are in the course development part of L&D, this is really going to change the way you think of development, because you will always create an agent to go along with any kind of formal learning, because it's the best way to reinforce its impact after.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just the way, so a project we're actually working on at the moment is how do you start to take parts of different media and courses based on a skill at the top and recombine them automatically, for example, and trigger based on certain circumstances. So again, it's how does all these things start to come together now an agent exists? And I think that's exactly like you said, the way we do courses will start to evolve.
So we want to make sure we kept a little bit of time for questions and answers. There are so many resources available through trainingindustry.com. There's research reports. We're trying to keep you as informed as possible in terms of what's happening out there, so that you can leverage these tools and these approaches to impact the way you support your organization. So, you know, again, you can reach out to us, but clearly lots of resources available on the website, and we'd love you to meet Tia if you are interested in doing that. Amanda, do we have some questions? Because I saw.
Oh, do we have some questions?
I think I saw 1 million of them as the event was going on.
Just under 1 million. So we've got 12 minutes. Let's go. So first off, Sylvie wants to know, like, still confused about how the agent's trained. Is it an algorithm? How do you configure that with your information?
Me or you can, how would you?
You take it, Jack.
It's not an algorithm. So I'm going to boil it down to the most simple. Like, there's something called RAG, and RAG is now like saying cloud. It's a huge industry in of itself. It means retrieval augmented generation, and there's many varying degrees of simplicity to complexity that gets you accurate responses. It's like cloud or any type of database. But essentially, you've got a separate database of information. The AI will fetch and look into that, will then come back and check before sending prompts. It will check the prompt against the database of information, and it will go back and forth in blink of an eye to produce that answer. So actually what it is taking all of your information, it indexes it. So for us, we identify speakers, ideas, dates, all those important things. We put it into a database, number of databases, that is separate to the AI language model. So when we think about things like security, there's often those fears. None of that data actually gets sent to a language model. Nothing. It's actually going back and forth to check what the AI said as compared to your database over and over again. And that's why all those things with AI agents, reasoning, planning, reflection, is really important to increase accuracy. So I think in the old world, people got excited that it just speaks to content. Where we are now is the world of how accurate can you make it? We work in compliance, for example, in some industries, has to be very accurate. So I think hope that gives a broader answer. I might have gone into a few different things there.
Well, and it's interesting too, when we were building Tia, there were some times when we were testing her that we were noticing she was giving answers that aren't necessarily within our realm of knowledge. So we went back to the mindset team and said, is there a possibility of turning off the open bank that she's connected to? And although it's not something they would normally recommend because of the specificity of wanting the subject matter expertise coming only from our knowledge, we were able to do that for Tia. All right, so let's see. Havavoy is asking, from my basic experience, the more I use ChatGPT, the better it knows me. In the future, will users have to become loyal to just one provider, or is there a danger that large organizations will have a monopoly and then that may cause more IP challenges? Any thoughts?
So I've got a view. You can go first if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say that you're going to want to use the agent that is you're going to want to use an agent that is most knowledgeable in the area that you're going to use it for. And I think Jack will probably tell you that what's going to happen is the agent's going to know which agent knows best. Like it's going to understand you through interactions to say, well, you're really asking me a sales question now, so I'm going to give you a sales knowledge bank answer. So I think that's where it's going to go. Are the big companies going to have an advantage? Like if they're going to replace search, sure. But the depth of knowledge is still going to reside with subject matter experts, in my opinion.
I mean, and it's almost like saying worried about does, I don't know, I'm going to give a bad example, Yahoo versus Google. Do I have to use one or the other? Very soon, right now it doesn't exist, but things like the concept of memory, middleware technology will exist very soon where it's almost like this is my memory bank as an individual, and I'll give it access to this model or this model. I mean, we already support things like 30 and we give options for 5, the best ones, different models, and you can swap between them. Because ultimately there's a massive amount of competition in those models. And some are going to become really good at maths. Some are going to become really good at other things.
All right, I know our timeline was, I felt it was fairly quick, but Roger would like to know what would be a good guideline for how long it might take to build an agent similar to Tia.
Yeah. I mean, Tia was an interesting one because you guys as a media publishers we work with typically have a lot, like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of content. So it completely depends on how many people you want to give it to and that process. We work on to get it down to as short a time as possible. You can build one in minutes. It's mainly how secure and safe do you feel in terms of the deployment you're going to make. So training industry is an example. You're going live to, I mean, one of the biggest L&D communities in the world. If you've got a team of 15, you want to put 2 first. It's a much smaller group of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that's exactly right. We were able to get it to the training industry team relatively quickly. And it was pretty good. I mean, it was certainly better than using search on the website to try and find the article and then trying to read it. And then, so I think our team internally, we were really excited about its existence because it's really hard for us to know what we've got and what we don't have. And one of the exciting things for us too is now we'll see questions that are going to get asked that we don't have the answer to, and that'll also guide us editorially in terms of what topic areas we're going to try and take care of in the future.
Yeah. But to be really, really clear on your answer, you can build one in 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. It's just how quickly you want to ingest and deploy.
Yeah, and I think the exciting thing, again, if we start to think about these agents as subject matter experts in a specific area that you would launch or make available after someone does formal training, I think the compliance example is a really good one. Like you can ask the agent, so what should I do here? And it will have all of the content that made available through all of the training programs that you did in the context of compliance and serve the right answer to the employee. Those are the exciting use cases in my mind when you start to think about it.
Yeah.
All right, I do want to answer a couple of really quick questions. Yes, this recording is going to be available after the fact. And yes, you will get the AI use cases job aid. And yes, it has a ton of clickable links to other resources on AI that training industry has created. So you will get all of that, no worries. And you will have a link to potentially go and sign up for Tia. And she does have monthly subscriptions, so you can test her and see how you like her. All right, so let's get back to it here. Julie wants to know, and it's funny because SCORM is you either love it or you hate it, or you love it and hate it. But Julie wants to know, Jack, for the 450 SCORM courses that you localized to another language, did you have any pushback on the accuracy of the translation, and how do you manage things like that?
Same answer as Ken's, to be honest, not so far. So the a good example, there's certain models that, certain languages that certain models have challenges with. We've had to actually build in new options. So we have to identify what type of language it is and automate it. A good example was Arabic, wasn't something that was all necessarily supported. So there's certain use cases there you might find edge cases. So 75% of the time, absolutely fine. And it wasn't just localization, it was actually that SCORM files itself, to get the media, because obviously it's a structure with different HTML files, basically. We had to do lots of transformation as a service to make it into something that's like a file that can be fetched for people as well. But no pushback at all.
All right, we have just a few more moments, and this question is a hot one, so I'm going to ask it. In what ways can L&D teams measure the effectiveness and impact of AI agents on learner engagement and performance?
All the ways. That's the whole thing, because it's 100%, it's a data warehouse like you've never seen. It tracks everything, it tracks every interaction, it tracks every question. So just think of a situation where you taught a course and you provide the agent after the course to support the employees that are, I don't know, pick something simple. It's a course on a coding language. And the agent sits there as a support tool after you've gone through the course. These employees have taken the course on how to do this particular kind of coding. Well, every time employees ask the same question, you start to see a pattern where, hey, you know what? Our course is missing this particular element. So we can go back and we can fix the course. So that's a pretty powerful way of demonstrating the impact. You can also demonstrate the impact by showing how well it's supporting employees after, how many interactions there are with the agent. So it gives you a lot of measurability, and it's truly the best example of performance support that I think we as an industry have seen, because it's measurable, because you can track the usage, because you can use it to feed development going forward. You know, adding new ideas into your courses, because it keeps coming up as a frequently asked question. So there's a lot of power to it.
All right, well, we have come to the end of this session. Thank you so much to Ken and Jack. Not only has it been a pleasure working on this project with you, but it has been a pleasure talking about it with this audience today. So really appreciate the time that you took to put together this information. I know that I think we blew a couple of minds out there. So our objective, we've reached it. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
All right, if you want to catch us for some more events, of course, you can check out trainingindustry.com/webinars. All of our events do pre-qualify you for 1 credit hour by ISPI, SHRM, HRCI, and CPTM. What is CPTM? It's the Certified Professional in Training Management Program. If you're looking to up your personal and professional game by linking learning objectives to organizational goals, this is the course to help you do it, and you get certified. You want to join that CPTM alumni crowd. It is a cool group to be in. Of course, we'd love to meet you in person. Maybe we'll have cool technology for you to test again at Training Industry Conference and Expo next year. That's where we launched TIA this year. It was very exciting. You can join us in Raleigh, North Carolina in June, so hopefully we'll see you for that. More information on our website. Of course, Jack, Ken, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Mindset for being a wonderful partner. And thanks to all of you for coming to today's event. One last time, thank you so much, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye-bye.